You know, it must be really difficult to be a Muslim in Canada right now with this crazy 24/7 news cycle.
Taking Islamic refugees would be suicide.
There's a direct connection between that population and the risk of terror.
Should we really be opening our doors at the risk of letting in terrorists?
What could possibly go wrong with poor, starving, Muslim, alienated men?
Islam is a political system that is intent on world domination.
There are real refugees among the people fleeing Syria, and they're Christians.
So that is why a group of young Muslims from Metro Vancouver have decided to put together a film to get a conversation going. And the film is going to be called Speak. It's just in production now, but this is just a taste of the trailer.
What are you doing there?
Who are you texting?
Texting all your friends? Do you have any friends?
Yeah. You're from a different country, right? Think you're smarter than us?
You're not even from here.
You know, you're lucky to be here.
Yeah, how long have you been here? Can you guys stop?
Stop what?
What, sorry? Was that English? I couldn't understand.
Hey! Leave her alone.
Powerful stuff. I have the writer and the director and executive director of Speak in studio, Shahid Devji. Thank you for coming in.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
We used to work together briefly. At another media organization. We also have the lead actress, Ziyana Vasaya, who is from Port Moody and also a producer.
Yeah, great
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
And Imran Amlani, is that how I say it?
That's right.
From
Thank you.
Burnaby, who's also the producer. Thank you all for coming in.
Thank you, Lynda.
I'm going to start with you, Shahid. Tell me, where did the idea even come from to do a film?
Well, it came from within. It's something that's kind of been boiling within for a long time for me. So I'm a Muslim, obviously, as you mentioned, and identifying as a Muslim has ebbed and peaked and ebbed and highs and lows for me. So when I was in high school, I was one of the only brown kids and certainly one of the only Muslims in high school, and I was just trying to fit in. So I didn't talk about being a Muslim much. I had this life that I lived at home, and then I had a life that I lived at high school. And as I grew up, so to speak, I became more and more comfortable speaking out proudly and openly that I was a Muslim. I found people like me at university and people who were proud to do so. Obviously, 9/11 changed things, and as time has passed since 9/11, there's been more and more, like you said, with the 24-hour news cycle, more and more negativity that surrounds it. And I've kind of retreated a little bit. I've become a bit more fearful to share my story and be openly a proud Muslim, just because of the hate that is being spewed everywhere, whether it's hate crimes or hate speech. What I see on the news often scares me to speak out, and so that's my internal struggle. That's been my existence for the last 10 years, going back and forth between wanting to speak and not. But I recently was inspired by some people who do speak out, like Ziyana to my right here, without fear, it seems. And I wanted to do my part, and I thought making this short film would bring more attention to that.
Ziyana, what gives you that courage then?
I think it's really easy living in this world where we have so much privilege, in a sense that we have food, we have shelter, that it makes me feel really lucky to have all this, that I have this power that I can speak up for people that don't have all this stuff around them, and they're more discriminated against. So I think being in that position where I'm still pretty young, that I can say stuff without having so far any backlash, so it's nice to use that when there's people who can't.
Imran, tell me about the plot of the movie. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, so the whole story is based on a high school student that she sees something happening outside and in the field when someone else is being talked to in a way that it shouldn't be. And what happens is that she's going to decide on that day, is she going to say something or not say something? And I was having this conversation earlier about, we always want to do the right thing. We always want to stand up. We always want to be brave. But at the same time, when we don't, and we don't speak, and we're not talking about the way we feel, then we walk away with another feeling. And it's guilt, and it's sadness. And it goes, why did I choose not to stand up when I would for anyone else? So the whole movie or script is based on the student understanding the life of someone else and saying, okay, this is happening. I need to talk about it.
And it's interesting because that narrative kind of played out, you know, in a different form in real life a couple of years ago. Do you remember the young Muslim woman, Noor Fidel, who was attacked on the Canada line? And she came on the show and she talked about, you know, being targeted and having, you know, random people just show her prejudice.
There was a man sitting a few seats away from me. I was on the phone. I didn't pay attention to him until he actually got up and was saying, he had a very aggressive look on his face while he was talking. And so I pulled one of my earphones out and I told my friend on the phone, hey, like 1 sec. He is talking to me in Arabic, actually. A white guy mixing Arabic and a different language, which I don't want to assume anything, but it sounded more on the French side. And he told me that he's going to kill me and kill all Muslims. I have a lot of people tell me to go back to my country and stuff, like a lot of the times, but I mean, like,
which is crazy because you're born here in BC.
Born in here. Where do you guys want me to go back? Burnaby Hospital? Like, I don't get it, right?
And you know what was really sad about that situation was in a packed Canada line, there was one young white guy who got up and came to her defense, a good Samaritan. Do you remember that story and how did it impact you, Shahid?
Well, I mean, it's not the only story that's impacted me. I do remember it. And I mean, there's a story just 2 days ago that I saw on Twitter of, a Muslim woman in Ontario, I believe, had her car egged and then was being yelled at with racial slurs while she was driving. And she decided to chase this car down. And, you know, usually when I see these stories, I retreat even further back. Like, I don't want to put myself out there because I know that there's something, boiling underneath the skin of some people. And if I do, I could be that next person that, you know, somebody lashes out against. And like I said, that's the internal struggle that you have. You know, it's not right and you want to speak out. But, you know, being who we are, it feels like there's always that risk that you're that next victim.
Ziyana, you know, do you feel this sort of extra polarization with what's going on south of the border and, Donald Trump and a lot of the rhetoric that we're hearing? Does it ever touch your life personally?
Yeah, I feel almost an opposite reaction to Shahid. I kind of feel like I need to do something about it. And that might be because growing up, I haven't had too much like backlash again. Like I have experienced a little bit, but
in what ways?
Just like on the bus, or I was at like an immigration ceremony for my friends, and some people are like, oh, like when did you become a like citizen, or like where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from right here. Like I was born a citizen, you know? So it's just like little things I feel like I need to brush off, but when they happen to other people, I just get so fired up. So it's really great to just channel all that into this film and be able to, you know, use this medium to just let it all out.
Mm-hmm. Imran, have you had any personal experiences with discrimination?
I would say I grew up in a pretty good lifestyle. I was raised in Burnaby, went to school here, went to university here. I never had any friends or anybody around me that specifically said anything to me. I never even considered myself Muslim or brown growing up just because I had a variety of friends until 9/11 happened. And it wasn't a reaction of, oh, look at you, you're Muslim, those are your people. It's, I can't believe they're doing that. How do you feel about that? What makes you different? And again, the following week at mosque there was a lot of windows being broken because we used to have spiritual beads called tasbih hanging off our windshields. And a lot of windows were breaking in parking lots of our mosques following that.
What is it? Is it, Shahid, is it fear? I mean, what's driving this?
Oh, it's got to be fear. It's fear of the other. I mean, you know, the fear that I'm feeling is the fear that other people are feeling, I'm sure. I think the issue that, you know, we're having is that we're not in a place where discourse is the norm, right? And we're not in a place where opposing, you know, ideals and ideas are accepted. So it's either you're one thing or you're another. And the gray area, which most people probably live in, is the gray area. That's not necessarily being accepted or even discussed. And so that's why, you know, we want to make this film, is to talk about that gray area, right? You know, I live in that gray area, that push and pull that I was talking about, and so do Ziyana and Imran. And, you know, we're crowdfunding this film. I'm not sure if you mentioned that, but we're crowdfunding it, trying to get support. And the support has been amazing in that, oh, this is a really important story. And most of those comments are coming from non-Muslims, you know, people who understand that, which is been really encouraging to me because I didn't know what the reaction would be like when we took this on and whether it would invite that backlash that I'm fearful of.
No, I'm so glad it's not so far. This is an Indiegogo campaign. How do people find it?
Yeah, so 5seater.com/speak is where all the details are about this film, and there's a link to that.
Is it 5 as in written out or the
written
number?
Out, FIVE, cedar as in the tree.com/speak, yeah.
Welcome back. I'm talking to 3 young people from Metro Vancouver who are working on a new film called Speak. They're all young Muslims. Shahid Devji, Ziyana Vasaya, and Imran Amlani. And we have a bunch of phone calls too. Are you ready to take calls? This is about your experiences with discrimination here, even in Metro Vancouver. We're going to start with Parm in Burnaby. Hi, Parm. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you, Lynda.
What did you want to say?
I wasn't born in Canada. I came here 10 years ago. But my son, he was born shortly after we came here.
Mm-hmm.
And we found he's experienced more discrimination than I have or my wife.
Like what kind?
It took him a while to understand why these kids at school were calling him names and stuff because he didn't see himself as being different than them.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, physically, he does look different. And it's honestly just gotten worse.
Oh, geez. I'm so sorry to hear that. Thank you for sharing that story. Any thoughts from the panel here?
Yeah, that breaks my heart to hear. I've got 2 little kids. They're 2.5 years old, twin boys. And the whole reason I've decided to speak out is because of that. I don't want them to grow up with that being a part of their existence. And if it is, if it unfortunately is, I want them to be equipped with the confidence to speak out. And so this is one of the reasons that, I'm involved in this project. But I've got a cousin or a nephew on the other side of the country who's dealing with the exact same thing as Parm, or the caller there.
Geez.
And so it's happening, and we got to figure out a way to deal with it.
Yeah, let's bring in Matt in Delta. Hi, Matt.
Hey there. Just want to say thanks for even talking about this issue, because really that's what it is lack of education and just ignorance. I'm dating a Muslim guy, and actually it's been about 4 years, and when we first started dating, I had no idea that he was a practicing Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
And when he told me, I was actually kind of worried just from the stigma of it and my and my ignorance and lack of education. I actually told him one time, you just do want to be careful. You never know. You could be influenced and brought into ISIS or extremism.
Oh, man. Wow. I mean, you shouldn't even have to have those conversations, right? I mean, the world has become so complicated. Thank you for calling in, Matt. Imran, do you want to make a comment on that?
Yeah, Matt, thanks for calling in. It's definitely, the conversation is supposed to happen, and it's glad that you at least had that with him. All we want to showcase is not our problems, but everyone's problems put together. And if we start talking about it and having a conversation, we're not going to have issues like this where we start thinking the worst.
Yeah. You know what? We have tons of calls and we can't even get to them all, but this is an important conversation. And you are opening the dialogue with your film. I'm going to tweet out a link to your Twitter page. So if people want to get involved in the film or donate money, they can do.